Everyone wants the calling, but few are willing to be healed enough to carry it. Welcome to The Healed Show, where we go deep to restore your foundation through spiritual formation and inner healing. I'm Frances, therapist, pastor, and coach for high-capacity leaders who have done it all, yet still feel undone. Here, we rebuild your inner world with God so you can lead with clarity, strength, and the kind of peace that transforms everyone you lead. Take a breath. Let's begin. Tammy, it's so great to have you here with us on The Healed Show.
It's so great to be here.
So we met last summer, and it was so funny because I was invited to a birthday party that was hosted at your house.
Yes.
And we go to the same church, but because our church is so big, we had never talked.
No.
Even though you've been at the church for years, and
Yes.
so have I. And I felt like, I felt like I was supposed to go to that birthday party that day, even though I didn't know the person very well.
Yes.
And then after the party, I talked to you, and we talked until like 2 in the morning. And then I knew why I was supposed to be at that birthday party, which is so funny. It was like a divine appointment.
It absolutely was.
And so you're in the inner healing space.
Yes.
You've received training. And so tell us a little bit about how you got into inner healing and getting trained for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to when I was younger, I've always known that where my gifting was counseling. It was people and helping people. But I had done that more in a secular type of arena. And then I decided, you know what, I'm not going to stay in this. And then so many people had spoken, said to me, education is never lost. And I thought, one day I'm going back to this. I know I'm going to do it. So then my husband and I, we decided that we would go to Bible college. So we did Bible college. And then it was how the Lord had taken us. And all of a sudden it was just putting things in my heart, these desires. It was to get to know people and help them in a way. So I started doing certifications, and it was on being Holy Spirit led counseling. And then the Lord started bringing up inner heart healing. And there was so much that it was speaking to my own life, and it was helping me so much that I thought, this is what the world needs. The people need to know how the Lord can go in and he just fixes our wounds. And because I was getting so much breakthrough from it, that's why I ended up going into this. And it's just been such a desire. Everybody I meet, it's like, oh my goodness, there's a wound there. Jesus wants to heal that. And I just want to work with people. So that's the journey that I've been on. So it's been a long journey of how the Lord actually got me here, but seeing how he's been so intentional to get me to this place and where he wants me.
Amazing.
Yes.
So I think that kind of a big percentage of people, even in the church, have not been healed. And by healed, I mean like their inner child, like the emotional, spiritual kind of healing. And a lot of people can actually be well liked or even celebrated in the church for having these trauma symptoms of like never saying no, of kind of like powering through and doing everything that's asked of you.
That's right.
And maybe feeling exhausted but being unable to say no, and just being like high performers, high achievers.
That's right.
And I'm curious about just your story, because you're a very, in worldly standards, a very successful person.
Yeah.
And how that plays out in your life in terms of how successful you are, but then what was driving that
That's
underneath.
Right. Yeah. That because how you're explaining about people being in the church, that was me. I was that person that absolutely I would never say no. I wanted to serve on everything. I wanted to be that person that was always busy, and that on the outward it was doing so much that I felt like, okay, I'm doing this for you, Lord. But I got so exhausted with having, 4 kids of my own and my husband that I'm giving so much of it out because I'm thinking, okay, God, this is what you want me to do. But it wasn't actually do really what I was called to be doing at that moment. My ministry wasn't supposed to be that at that moment. So it was kind of placing a Band-Aid over a wound in a way. And, so I was busy with my job. It was like I was going morning to night. I was so used to it. We'd go out all night, and then I'd say to my husband, okay, where are we going next? And he'd say, I just need to rest. And I didn't understand. I'm thinking, we don't need to rest. We have to keep going. We need to do this for the Lord. So what happens is I notice so much that you see people walking around with these wounds, and sometimes the people that are walking around with the wounds the most are actually Christians. Because we're taught so much about we need to serve, we need to do this, we need to act in a certain way because Jesus has us. And yes, Jesus does have us. Yeah. But what it comes down to is, have we given him those hurts? Have we given him those emotional pains, those traumas? Have we actually given it to him of what we're supposed to do? And I think the church has lost so much of it and seen so much of the wounding of the church. And in my own life, I had, to kind of give my story, is that I was brought up by, I had a father, my father and mother. My father had left, and he left when I was 6 years old. But before he had left, we had gone into a store, and I was trying on this dress, and I came out, and he looked at me and he said, "You are so fat." And at that moment, it was like I literally froze, and that was what was spoken over me. Now, from that day forward, I didn't realize how much pain I had carried. And this is what I see a lot in the church. So what you do is, you press that wound down so much, you serve, you keep busy, you do all this kind of stuff, and you're in there, you're praising the Lord, you're singing, you're worshiping, you're reading your Bible, but you're missing a piece. You're missing a piece that it's that you're always trying to push it down. So I didn't want to be somewhere that was quiet. I didn't want to be quiet with my thoughts. People would be like, okay, just sit with Jesus and just let it. It was almost that it was uncomfortable for me because I didn't want these feelings to be bubbling up all the time of what I was actually going through. Yeah. Because I'm trying to go through what a Christian is really supposed to look like. I am supposed to be reading my Bible. I'm supposed to be praying. I'm supposed to be successful and be a great mother and everything else. But yet I had this wound that was deep inside of me that I realized after writing down. I thought, I'm going to, because so you and I had gone on a retreat together. Yes. And it was an inner heart healing retreat, and it was learning, kind of going deeper and teaching people about inner heart healing. And I did not know that the Lord was actually going to work on my heart. I thought, okay, I'm going here, I'm going to work, I'm going to learn more of how to take someone deeper. And then all of a sudden he started bringing the stuff up, and he brought me back to that 6-year-old girl that I had stuffed down the whole time. So it was like she was still there. And if someone ever brought up weight to me, there was I had this trauma that would come out, and I would feel so hurt inside and not realizing that I was being hurt inside. And then, so they challenged us and said, write down what it is that you're actually thinking. And so I wrote down, every 10 minutes I realized I'd write down, oh, am I going to gain weight? I feel fat. I feel this. And it was what my inner dialogue was saying, but I didn't realize it, that it was actually saying it. So it was what I'm telling myself, but because I'm pushing down these feelings so much, I was amazed at how many times that I was actually saying this to myself, that I was speaking this way to myself. So for me, I'm thinking, how is this? How am I still going through this? When I had done everything, because I've done so much of this inner heart healing, I've done so much that I didn't realize that there was a piece that was missing. So I have forgiven my father, I have broken soul ties, I have done everything, but why is it that I still have these thoughts? Yeah. Why is it that I can't get rid of these thoughts? Why is it that I don't have this complete peace when it comes to this? It was like I'm carrying around a burden, but it's stuffed down. So it wasn't until we were all, it was during a training, so you kind of do a lead and then you do a co-lead, and then you're the one that is actually being counseled and ministered to. And it wasn't until then where the facilitator, he took over and was asking me, he said, let's do this all over again. Let's do the forgiving. Let's do the soul ties. And let's bring you back to that place with Jesus. And seeing Jesus in this story with me, and being able to see him there, and be able to see the 6-year-old girl that had gone through this trauma at the time, and to someone else it might not seem big, but to have something spoken over you and to believe this and for you to live your life like this, it's horrible. So going back and seeing this child and this hurt, it was then where it was just speaking to that child. I was literally speaking to that child, and at first I thought, is this right? Is this this is what I should be doing? So I'm like, Jesus, I want to give you everything. I want to do everything. So I literally was speaking to this child that was inside of me, because I literally left this 6-year-old there, and I continued to grow up throughout life. And I had these thoughts going, but I just would push it down. So by speaking to this child and being able to tell that child that child's love, and be able to speak that truth of the Lord, that child is made in the image of God, at that moment, I literally just seen this child morph into me, and the peace of God that came over me. It was literally like I was having a hard time with emotions. I wasn't even crying. Yeah, I was hardly ever crying about anything. I'd always have myself together. I'd have to act in a certain way, but just to release everything, and for that peace to come, and knowing that, hey, it's okay to have emotions. It's okay to do this. So that moment, by giving everything to the Lord, it literally released. And that was my journey with God, that it's been life-changing. And since then, I don't have those thoughts. Some of it will still be habit. Once in a while I'll catch it, but it's been absolutely life-changing. I can't tell you the difference from the session that I had with somebody to go through these steps with them, of how much that bondage, those handcuffs that I didn't realize that were on me spiritually, had came off.
Yeah. So you've that was the missing piece.
It was the missing
of letting
piece,
Jesus into that really painful place.
Yes.
And then on top of the fact that you couldn't feel the pain of that memory for maybe decades of your life.
No.
And it's pretty wild how we can go through life just so cut off from ourselves.
That's right.
And that's really what trauma does. It does. When we go through something so painful, and it brings on feelings of helplessness or terror, this emotional pain, we cut off from the feelings, and it's as though it never happened.
Yes.
But then the pain continues to be there, and it shows up in other ways.
It does.
And it's so interesting, because if someone were to look at you, you're beautiful, you've made a lot of money and had these positions and reputation, and then in the church as well, you had all these leadership positions, but then inside, in your inner world, you weren't even aware of what was driving you, and this deep pain that was, would you say it's right to say, kind of driving you to do these behaviors because you were trying to feel valued or loved?
That's exactly what it is, because I go back and during this whole process being okay, I have more letters behind my name because I wanted to look okay, I'm successful. I've done this. I've done that. I was in sales for years. I had to be that President's Club. I had to be the top sales. I had to be things so other people could be proud of me, because I had that wound there that I was trying to be able to kind of stroke, to try to be able to calm that wound down. So I didn't realize how much I've been striving, but I'm striving for the wrong things. I'm striving for the earthly things, for the things that is going to make me look in a certain way. But yet, it's all about Him. It is all about Him and how we can pour those emotions out at His feet. And we can be changed in an instant. And realizing that now, how much do those earthly things really matter? How much do those letters behind your name really matter? It doesn't. It's what He does, and that freedom that comes from that.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. We kind of had a funny moment after the healing retreat where you were starting to feel emotions with other things.
Yes.
And then you were tearing up, and you asked me, oh my gosh, is something wrong with me? I'm crying. And I said to you, No, so absolutely not. Nothing's wrong with you. You're feeling your emotions, and it actually makes you more relatable. So I feel like I even relate to you better now than before, before all of this. So that's, it can actually really deepen relationships too.
It can.
When
Absolutely.
you're just more integrated. You're, you actually feel pain, and you, the full, like human experience.
It's so true, because it's like the one thing that I realized that during all this, when you try to be someone that you really aren't because you haven't dealt with that portion in you, and you're trying to do that, you actually end up having problems with intimacy. Absolutely. And intimacy, and you're not only meaning your husband or your wife, right?
Yes, exactly.
It's actually with your friends.
Yes.
So when you and I got in the car, and I just started, all of a sudden I'm like, I'm not okay, and I started to cry when we were driving home, and I'm like, is something wrong with me? Because I never cried. I'm like, really, I remember I would try to cry, I'd put a movie on, and I'd get like one tear come down, and be like, come on, other side, go, because I wasn't feeling this emotion, and all of a sudden since then, I've been crying ever since then, and I'm like sitting there praying and crying, and I used to wonder, like, how do these people cry so easily? I thought, are they putting it on? I actually thought people were putting it on, because I didn't think that people would actually cry this easy. But then, yes, you did say to me, you said, you know what, it makes you so much more relatable. And I do feel that way, and I make sure that, this is something that I stay relatable, that I don't have to act like I am so strong in every area. And if there is an area that I'm not, that it's okay to say that. And it's okay now that if I feel something, it's okay to feel it. Because you know what I do? I'll go upstairs, I go to my secret room, and I pour that emotion out on the Lord. I literally picture it, like taking that emotion of whatever's going on. It can be something that just happened that was, I felt sad at, or I felt whatever. I literally take it and I picture putting it at his feet. I literally pour that emotion out. I cry before him. I put that emotion at his feet, and I can just feel him filling me with peace. And that has been the biggest thing for me to realize, that he takes it, and then feeling that peace after is just the most amazing thing. Because before, if I had that emotion, I just stuffed it down, and I think, okay, it's gone, I'm over it, I get over things fast. But realizing, really, you don't get over things fast. You're just pushing that down, and it will manifest in different ways.
Yeah.
In different ways,
Yeah, one thing I've been mulling over is, it's not true for everyone, but for a lot of people, there's so much more pain there than we realize.
There is.
Like, or we don't acknowledge how deeply things affect us in life.
Yes.
Like, it's just so common because of our childhood conditioning.
That's right.
For something awful to happen, like a betrayal or an accusation, or a relational thing, and then for us to just say, out loud, I forgive them, and then to not go through all the emotional healing. Like, if you get a really deep gash on your arm, it's going to take a long time for that to heal.
That's so true.
And we don't treat emotional wounds like that.
We don't.
We treat it as though, like, it's nothing, and we ignore it.
So true.
With the belief that that's the right thing to do.
It's true.
And so I'm really curious about you, because I'm sure some people can identify with you that maybe they can't cry, and they don't feel much emotion.
Yes.
Like, how did it come to be that way for you as a child? Like, what, and then also, like, what would have happened if you did show emotion as a child?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it comes from, it's my family is British, so it's kind of that a stiff upper lip that you kind of have. So by first off, not ever seeing my mom cry, not seeing my dad cry, not seeing anyone cry. So already, subconsciously, you already think, okay, I shouldn't cry. And then if you do cry, it's don't cry. It's, it's one of those things, and I know sometimes it could even be worse on different genders, on males more so than even on females. But even on myself, it's like, well, why are you crying? This is silly. And so you almost look at it in my family, it made you look weak. It made you look like you were so weak in that moment, and you're not able to get yourself under control, so it's not celebrated. So you end up realizing I realized from a very young child, you don't cry. I honestly, throughout my life, I remember very few times, and I used to pride myself actually on that. And I used to say to people, oh, I never cry. I haven't cried in 10 years. Or I haven't, and not realizing how horrible that actually is. Because we should have emotions. God gave us emotions. He gave us emotions so we know when things happen, but also that we can pour it out and give it to him. He bottles our tears. He literally says he bottles our tears. So we are meant to cry. We are supposed to do these kind of things. We are because if not, if I'm acting like I am so strong all the time, how am I helping anybody else? Are they really going to be able to tell me what's going on with them? Am I really going to be able to have an intimate relationship with anybody if I act in this way that I don't cry or I have everything together? It doesn't let someone else open up, because then they're going to have to feel that way.
Yeah.
So it's not, I find a lot of times emotions are not something that is celebrated, but it should. And we should be able to recognize, hey, right now, like so you and I being at a retreat, you actually spoke to my heart that one day. She climbed a tree. And you climbed a tree. And I looked up and I'm like, what is she doing? And you're up there and you're like, I am just so happy right now. And like, you're climbing a tree and you're getting dirty and you're so happy. But to see that joy on your face and for you to express, I am so happy right now. Since then, I've thought of that probably 5 times. And I've thought, I just need to tell people when I'm happy. We need to speak it out, because it's not only the emotions of feeling sad, but feeling that emotions of excitement, of joy, of feeling happy. Because how many times is it, I feel sad, I feel this way. But no, be able to speak to yourself, to be like, I feel so happy right now. And seeing you do that, I don't see many people actually express how happy they are.
Right. You know what's so funny about, I'm so glad that when we express things like sadness and anger through our words, it actually brings down the intensity. But when it's a positive emotion, we actually heighten the intensity of, say, the happiness. And so I love that you're doing that we can, you know how we like marinate meat in sauce, or like if you're at the beach and it's sunny, you let the warmth of the sun soak into your skin. We need to like soak in and heighten and expand these positive experiences, because I believe that's part of the abundant life. Like God gave us these amazing emotions that many Christians, like some of them never feel. It's crazy. It is. And we're meant to feel a lot of joy and peace and you know all of the different fruit of the Spirit and love. That's right. It says like in the scripture, when all things pass away, the only things that remain are faith, hope, and love.
That's right.
And so I believe God designed us to feel a lot of that, a lot of joy. But why is it that most Christians live like they're just, it's the opposite?
Well, you think about it. If you get to the point where you push down your emotions, how can you feel anything? You end up being like a robot. Because I remember I'd go on prayer walks and be like, Lord, I just pray for peace. I pray for these. But I was praying for the fruits of the Spirit. But why wasn't I showing it? It was because I had a wound in my heart, or wounds that I have had in my heart, that you learn to push down all this. So you go about life and things that should be so exciting, that you should be so happy and joyful for, because I'm pushing down all my emotions. And this would be for other people. People are pushing down emotions. They don't realize that it is okay to be happy. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to have these emotions. But so many of us don't, and we don't realize, and we're always behind our phone, and this is distracting, things that are distracting us all the time, that's giving us a false joy of watching someone else go through this, or a YouTube video, whatever it is. But no, you go through it. Stop, get off that phone and go out there and climb a tree. I don't know if I'm gonna do that, but you do it really good. But like it's something that we find joy in. Go out, do those things that as a child. That it's like, go out and do those things that give us joy, and speak it out. Speak things out that I feel joyful, I feel happy. If a friend does something, saying to a friend, hey, this upset me. Let those emotions come out, because that's where things get changed. Those are where, sitting with the Lord has been the number one thing for me. Is just sitting in that quiet place with Him and letting Him pour that peace out, and telling him things like, there's certain, phone companies or internet companies that you get on the phone with, and they really frustrate you. And I'll hear the Lord say, spend time with me first. But I am feeling on that. And during that day, I'm having to then push down these emotions because you feel so angry after it. But realizing that, we don't have to. We can go to him and I can say, okay, I'm pouring this out, and him pouring his peace in. It changes in an instant. And this is the one thing that I really feel like the church is missing. The church is missing being like, even speaking about having emotions, that it's okay to, that's okay to, but how to actually release those emotions, and that being with the Lord, going to him and releasing to them. So even in a marriage, like my husband can do something and I can be so angry at him, and if I go and say something to him, I'm unleashing. I'm going to say things that I am not going to want to see. But the thing is, if I go and I spend time with the Lord first, and I pray for this, I pray before, and I receive that peace to be able to go out and then go to my husband, it's a world of difference. If you go to the Lord on everything first, and that's why he gave us emotions, be able to give him the emotions and him leading us where he wants, being led by the Spirit instead of by this flesh, because this flesh doesn't want us to feel the emotions, right? We need to be led by that Spirit and saying, God, I'm giving it all to you. I'm giving you every piece of my emotion. I'm giving it all, and he just pours in all the fruits of the Spirit to us.
Yeah. I think you hit on a really important point. When you talked about verbalizing your happiness, where I think most of us don't routinely nurture our inner child.
So true. Yes.
It's like we pretend it doesn't exist, and or that we don't even need to, like we don't have those needs.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that the Bible encourages us to have a childlike faith, not childish, but childlike, and so much of the wonder and beauty in life we miss when if we block out all the anger and sadness, we block out all the joy and love.
That's right.
And then emotions are also like the glue between people, and if there's nothing to no substance to bond to people, it's the emotions. It's like how you love your kids.
Yes.
If you felt no love, you wouldn't be able to bond to your kids, and that actually happens for some people. So we're nearing the end of our time, but thank you so much for sharing your story.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been fantastic.
I think a lot of people can relate to you. It's also very similar to my story, and I'd love to have you back and to hear more.
Yes, thank you so much.
We'll talk soon, Tammy.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for joining me on The Healed Show. If God spoke to you through today's episode, go to healedfoundations.com. Until next time, God bless.